What's up, everybody? This is Cakes with another Path of Diablo budget build, and today we are doing the Hemorrhage Necromancer. I'd like to give a huge shout out to Eroso1 for writing the guide on this. It is his build. You can find it on the Path of Diablo wiki under the Necromancer section of the guides. It is very well written, very well formatted, and overall an absolutely excellent guide that I would highly suggest taking a look at. In his guide, he's got an option for budget level gear, end-game gear, as well as some different build variants and how they work. For the purpose of this video, I stuck strictly to the budget section. I took all of the gear and charms off of my Necromancer and then gave myself a 10 Orb of Corruption budget to buy the gear for this build with. I was able to get every piece of gear that he suggests in the budget section, as well as 2 Curse Grand Charms for the 10 Orbs of Corruption, and for that price, this build absolutely surpassed all of my expectations. If you like the video, please give me a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Leave me a comment down below if there's any other budget builds on the Path of Diablo wiki that you'd like to see videos on. And with that, let's get into it. So the skill Hemorrhage is a curse in the Necromancer curse tree that is unique to Path of Diablo. It ignores all immunities and can be used in tandem with other Necromancer curses like Decrepify or Dim Vision. In effect, it puts a damage over time debuff on mobs in a 7.3 yard AoE that does full damage to everything. Increasing the skill level will increase the damage that it does as well as the duration, however it does not increase the radius at all. As far as stats go, we put enough strength in to hold our gear. The heaviest thing that we have on is our Silkweave boots that require 65, so your strength is overall pretty low. Dexterity can either be left at base or enough for max block with your homunculus. I personally went with the max block route to help out with things like bush barbs and archers and maps. And then everything else goes into vitality. You do not need any energy. However, if you want some energy, it's not going to hurt you at all, as it will give you a bigger mana pool and more mana regeneration. The core talent points of this build, we max out Hemorrhage, we max out Weaken, we max out Iron Maiden, and we max out Life Tap. In the summoning tree, we put a point into Summon Skeleton, Summon Skeletal Mages, Revives, 1 point into Blood Golem, 1 point into Summon Mastery, and 1 point into Convocation. Once you have these points established, you will have 23 points left over at level 99. I would highly recommend putting a point into Dim Vision and Decrepify. You can put additional points into Convocation to reduce the cooldown. This is the route that I went. However, if I were to respec my Necromancer, I would take all but 1 point out of Convocation and split the other points between Summon Mastery and Revives. In this build, I only have 1 point in Summon Mastery, Skeletons, Skeletal Mages, and Revive, and they are very squishy. And I really just did not use Convocation all that often. I think that the points are much better spent in your Summon Mastery and Revive just to make your summons actually able to withstand some damage. You will see throughout this video that I primarily used Decrepify as my second curse. However, after I got done recording this video, I went and bought a wand with +1 to Dim Vision off of Akara just to try it out. And even with a white wand that added +1 to Dim Vision, it made my runs significantly easier. I would highly suggest using Dim Vision as your secondary curse on everything besides bosses. On bosses, you can use Decrepify as it slows them down, which significantly reduces their damage output. In Eroso's guide, he mentions that Iron Maiden is very good against physical bosses like Diablo, Duriel, and the Root of All Evil map boss. I tested this out and it is absolutely correct. It does amazing on those bosses. It is also extremely good on maps that have the monsters do additional physical damage mod. With the super budget gear, Iron Maiden will return over 3000% damage, meaning if you have plus 200 physical damage mod, every time a bush barb hits one of your skeletons with that 200 added damage, it takes 6000 damage back. Having Decrepify, Dim Vision, and Iron Maiden provide a huge amount of utility to this build that make it extremely good in many different situations. I genuinely enjoyed playing around with the different curses, and it was very satisfying to see a reanimated corpse charge my blood golem and just one-shot itself. Reanimated corpse charges are notorious for one-shotting things like my Amazon, so watching them charge and splat was pretty gratifying in a vengeance sort of way. So let's move on to gear. As I mentioned at the start of the video, I got every piece of gear that I am wearing for 10 Orbs of Corruption. That included 2 Curse Skiller Grand Charms, and the rest of the small charms that I have in my inventory are random life or magic find small charms that I found in a free game. For my weapon, I am using a Black Hand's Key. This is basically a poor man's Hoto for a Curse Necromancer. It gives plus 2 to all skills, plus 1 to curses, faster cast rate, some life, as well as some fire resistance. I'm using a blue plus 3 to curses circlet. You can find these for a single Orb of Corruption on the trade site. In my shield slot, I'm using a homunculus. You can find these for a single Orb of Corruption on the trade site. However, I see people giving them away for free quite often. For your glove spot, you want Trang's gloves, as they give plus 2 to curses, making them best in slot. You can get these for a single Orb of Corruption, if not for free. They also give you 20% faster cast rate as well as cold resistance if they weren't already good enough. In my boot slot, I'm using Silk Weaves. These give you faster run walk, maximum mana, 5 mana per kill, and defense versus missile. Every single stat on these boots is extremely beneficial to the Cursed Necromancer setup. For my chest piece, I'm using a 22 to all resistances Corrupted No Change Skins of the Magi that I got for a single Orb of Corruption. This is another piece of gear that you can find for free. In my ring slots, I have 2 Nagel rings. However, I would recommend trying to get a Ravenfrost for the Dexterity, Can't Be Frozen, and Cold Absorb. Even a CNC Ravenfrost is a very good option, as the Can't Be Frozen is very helpful, and the added Dexterity will help you get max block if you go that route. Unfortunately, Gramps is not very agile, so it takes quite a bit of Dexterity to get max block even with a homunculus. And for my amulet, I'm using a plus 3 to curses amulet with 30 life on it. I found this for 2 Orbs of Corruption. Getting anything better will be quite expensive, as it's hard to beat the plus 3 to skills and life. In my belt slot, I am using a crafted caster belt. It does have 10% faster cast rate on it. However, with the Skins of the Viper, Trang's gloves, and Black Hand Key, you are at 80% faster cast rate. This hits your goal of 75%, so any belt at all will work, preferably with some resistances. Or you can use a Tal Rasha's belt or a gold wrap for some magic find. Even a string of ears or verdungos would be good for a physical damage reduction route. For my mercenary, I am using an Act 2 combat mercenary for the prayer aura. He is using an Insight Thresher, a clean Tal Rasha's mask, and a treachery. Even with the super budget gear setup, this build steamrolls pretty much all of the normal game content and does extremely well in maps. I found the indoor maps to be the easiest, as it keeps the monsters relatively close together. The map that you see me run in this video is a 450 density musty crypt that gave me very few problems whatsoever. Regarding the playstyle of the build, I found it best to use Decrepify or Dim Vision ahead of my character when I'm running into a room. They have a huge radius and will hit everything in the room with a single cast. I then switch to Hemorrhage and dot everything up with Hemorrhage and it falls over. In all of the map content that I did with the budget setup, The only things that survived a single cast of Hemorrhage were map bosses. Overall, I have to say this is hands down the strongest out of all the budget builds that I have done. So if you're looking for a season starter or a solo self-found build, this one is definitely worth a try. Again, I'd like to thank Eroso for writing the guide. I truly enjoyed trying the build out. And as always, good luck, have fun, and I hope to see you out there.